Cardinals Corner from Arizona Sports.
Cardinals Corner from Arizona Sports with Tyler Drake and Lauren Koval.
Berg gang, you made it. It's almost here. Training camp is this week. What's going on? Tyler Drake and Lauren Koval here again for another edition of Cardinals Corner. And before we get into the brunt of training camp, we've got to look at some positional battles because that is going to shape this roster for 2024 and potentially beyond. So, first of all, Lauren, how are we doing today?
I'm doing well. I mean, training camp starts this week, so I am rearing to go.
I am amped. I'm going to be living at State Farm Stadium. I hope that the Cardinals put a cot in the press box because I'm not leaving, even if they try to kick me out. Just kidding. I will get out of there when they tell me to leave. But yeah, really jacked. It's going to be a great time. State Farm Stadium. There's a ton of open practices for all the Cardinals fans to check out. This team is going to be fun to watch. There's so many battles to go through. Last year, I felt like there wasn't nearly enough of the impactful ones. Like, there's some major ones that are going to really shape this team.
And also, Kyler Murray wasn't out there. Like, just sort of a level of where's your QB1, and he's not there. I mean, he was out on the field before open practices, so we could see him as the media sort of warming up and going through drills, but there's not that level of excitement for fans.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be a big thing to watch. Obviously, there's a lot of different storylines, that among the biggest, but when it comes to the battles, there's too many not to get into. I personally have about 7 that could really impact the team. I think the 7th one, maybe not so much, but it's still an interesting one. I'm going to give you a quick rundown of just the 7, and we can go down and rank them and give a couple of candidates, dark horses, all that jazz. So, beginning with cornerback. Cornerback 1, cornerback 2, and does it potentially lead into nickel situations? That's going to be a big one.
That's my battle number 1.
Oh.
I'll tease that right now.
Okay. Next one, left guard. Not the sexiest one, but one that's really going to help with this run game. So definitely a big one there. Pass rush. Oh boy, big one there. Running back number 2. Who's going to back up James Conner? That's another big one. Wide receiver 2. I think we know the 2 candidates there. We'll go back to that. Defensive line. Where does Darius Robinson fit in all this? And lastly, quarterback 2. Desmond Ridder and Clayton Tune. Well, let's get that one out of the way first because I think that's the lesser of the 7. But in the short yardage situations, you know, the Tune push, whatever you want to call it, the Ridder rumble, like who's going to take that over?
Did you just coin that right there? The Ridder rumble?
The Clayton cram? Like we can go all day.
My God, the alliteration is just going off on the podcast today.
Trademark.
I think that Desmond Ridder's got that one locked up.
Yeah, I think his veteran savvy and just that he's done it with Atlanta, has some starts under his belt. He should be the guy. I will be interested to see, though, if they still try to implement Tune in kind of those short yardage situations. If they decide, hey, we're going to keep Ridder as just a backup, Tune, we'll throw you in there every once in a while. But let's start back at the top, cornerback, because that's my number 1, too.
Okay.
All right. So when we look at that, a lot of candidates, starting with Sean Murphy-Bunting. Then you get into Garrett Williams, get into Max Melton, get into Starling Thomas, Keitrell Clark, Elijah Jones, I mean, there's a lot of names to consider. Give me your 3. Cornerback 1, cornerback 2, nickel.
Sean Murphy-Bunting, Max Melton, Garrett Williams.
Okay. Why do you think that?
Part of the reason that this is my number 1 battle into training camp, it's also my number 1 battle during the season. It feels like a position that might be really fluid for this team and might change a lot, and somebody might really outperform. I mean, Max might be the best thing since sliced bread and take over as cornerback 1. I could see that happening. The Cardinals have a history of loving to play their rookies really early and relying heavily on them. I think that Sean Murphy-Bunting gets the sort of the advantage, that seems like not the correct word, but advantage heading into the season because he's that veteran in this room. And generally speaking, this room is really, really young. When we had Max and Elijah in here, they were talking about, yeah, he's the veteran presence.
He's like the only one.
But he hasn't actually played for this team. Yeah. So he's a veteran presence on a team he's never played for before. So I'm interested to see how all that works out. So training camp will be the perfect place to sort of spy on that, I believe.
Okay. So for me, I keep thinking that's how I've been thinking Sean Murphy-Bunting, Max Melton, Garrett Williams. But a part of me is thinking Garrett Williams is going to move up a little bit into an outside role. And obviously, I think he did really well in the nickel. I think he's locked in as the nickel if that's where they see him fit and they have their two starters on the outside. But I really think Garrett Williams could be one of those guys on the outside. He's really been one of those guys throughout all the offseason work that has just been raved about. He even said like he's trying to up his game even more, and he just seems the confidence levels through the roof room right now, and I think it's just a matter of time before they start getting more looks on the outside with him. So as much as I think Sean Murphy-Bunting's probably the leader in the clubhouse entering camp, I'm going to be really looking at how they move Garrett throughout the formation moving forward through training camp, because if he starts getting more run on the outside, that's definitely going to throw it out there. I think for me, the dark horse is going to be Starling Thomas.
Okay.
Because undrafted guy last year really showed out. I think filled in really well when they needed some depth, especially when Keechar Clark kind of fell off in the back end of the year. So he's a guy that I'm looking at as, man, he could maybe sneak his way right into a starting role. So definitely my dark horse there.
Okay. That'll be interesting because there's not been a lot of talk about him so far heading into the season. So I'll be interested to see just out on the field how he's being used.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's get into left guard.
Okay.
So there's a couple names: Evan Brown, Isaiah Adams, John Gaines, Elijah Wilkinson. Where does that rank for positions first? And then give me your pick. Give me your two guys you think are going to be battling the most for this spot.
I think Brown and Adams will.
Okay.
Those are my two guys I think will compete for that. Maybe it's third on my battle list.
Okay.
Yeah, right around there. Maybe you could convince me to make it two. It's just like not a very like sexy high profile battle. Yeah. So I just go, okay, somebody's got to play that position.
Okay.
But Brown and Adams are the two that I think of. In my own bias, I want it to be Adams just because of the Illinois boy. But I think that it will be Brown.
Yep. I'm right there too. And I think the biggest thing for me is Brown's relationship with Paris Johnson already.
Yes.
The way that Paris is already talking to this guy. And obviously Paris Johnson has already said like, hey, I'm trying to get to know all of these guys because if they get thrown in, I've got to be able to go. We've got to be able to gel. So I really think, though, him and Brown are really connecting. I think especially in the weight room. They're really competing with one another to see who's the strongest, who can jump the highest, who can run the fast. Like, that kind of relationship, I think, is going to be really, really big for not only whoever's taking over the guard spot, but for Paris at left tackle. I mean, he had his guy with Will Hernandez on the right side.
Yeah.
It's no longer going to be the case. He's got to form that new bond, build that chemistry once again with a new person. So I'm thinking Brown. I think Elijah Wilkinson's still going to get a look just because he was their week one starter last year. They brought him back. So I'm looking at that, and I really do think Isaiah Adams, though, is in the mix for sure. So those are the three. And then John Gaines, he's really got to have a good training camp, and he's got to really show he's fully healthy. So last year I thought he had a potential to be that guy or maybe a backup center, but he's going to have to do a lot. So how I have it is Brown, and it's really close between Wilkinson and Adams. I think if Adams can really show right away that he's got everything down from a playbook standpoint, he moves up ahead of Wilkinson in my mind.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll keep an eye on that.
Yep. All right. Pass rusher.
Okay.
Where's it ranked for you? 2.
Ooh,
okay. 2. Left guard is my second one, by the way.
Okay.
Yes. Pass rusher is my third. So we just flip.
All right. We did a little switcheroo.
Pass rush. We got B.J. Ojulari, Dennis Gardeck, Zaven Collins, Victor Dimukeji.
Okay. It's why I have this second is because it's a critical piece of this Cardinals team, and last year I felt like greatly underperformed. I can't even say underperformed because I didn't have incredibly high expectations of this position. It felt like they were trying to figure it out while the season was going on, and then towards the end it was, okay, we'll figure it out next season at this point. And now, heading into this season, that's a position that they sort of need to nail down. I personally don't even know where I rank pass rushers in terms of players who I think is 1, 2, 3 for them. But that's part of the reason that it also adds to why it's my second thing on training camp is because I don't know where they're going to go. Yeah,
exactly. And that's a really good point. I think for me right now, the unknown for sure. I mean, I think there's a lot of unknown with cornerbacks too. Like I just said, I mean, whatever happens with CB1 and CB2 could have an impact on what happens with the nickel and it just all of it. And like you said, they didn't perform form last year. I mean, let's be real. They were 30th in the league, I think, with 30 sacks, something around there. So just not the production you need from that spot, and we saw the defense as a whole struggle. That was a reason for it. So in my eyes, I really think it's B.J. Ojulari's and Dennis Gardeck's jobs to lose. I really do. And Zaven, I think, can really have a big role and maybe can sneak his way into that starting lineup. But for me, I think it's really, I mean, Nick Rawlis and everybody talks so highly of BJ this year already. He looks bigger, he looks leaner, he looks faster. It's everything you want from a second-year guy. And then you've got Dennis Gardeck, who Rawlis again said is probably one of the most complete players he's coached. When you say that about a guy, he's probably got to be your starter. And the thing with Dennis is that he's already trying to, not already, but he's trying to separate himself in other parts of his game. And that's what Rawlis even said. Like, he's just got to take strides in every aspect. And one of that is being more of a guy who can drop in coverage, which I think Zaven was used more. So Dennis and BJ could really anchor this thing down a little bit, but it's still going to be a rotation at the end of the day. Zaven's still going to play. Victor Dimukeje is a dark horse in my opinion because he had 4 sacks last year quietly, showed his progress. So that's kind of where I have it shaken out. But as we've seen, it's going to be a rotation. All these guys are going to play. It's just a matter of who's really going to be out there first and who's going to really make the impact over the course of a game.
And in this contract year for Zaven, where the Cardinals are saying, all right, maybe we'll bring you back. Maybe he's going to end up with another team by the end of the season. That's where I think that he'll probably end up, is leaving the Cardinals and going somewhere else. But is he going to just ball out this year because he knows that he needs to cement a role for himself? I could see that happening for him.
The Hassan Reddick effect.
Exactly. Oh, God.
Don't bring him up.
No. Sorry.
I didn't.
Yeah. Somehow I'll mute that in post. I'll mute you saying that in post. But yeah, I think that if that happens for him, then that makes things, once again, just like that cornerback room, a rotation, something interesting to see, not only what happens in training camp, but what happens once we start the season.
Exactly. All right, let's go on to back to the offense. Running back 2, back up to James Conner. Who do we got? Who do you want to see?
I have this low in my training camp battle list, maybe even last.
Whoa.
I know. And I think I have this.
That's 4 for me.
Oh, okay. Well, then I'll tell you why I feel this way.
Tell me.
It's because I think Trey Benson has it.
Okay.
I think Trey Benson is too, and I think that his relationship with James Conner and sort of their partnership will be interesting to see. At what point do the Cardinals decide, I'm not saying this season, I'm saying down the line, do the Cardinals decide to move off of James Conner a little bit and move Trey Benson in a little bit more? When do their carries start to become a little bit more
split?
60-40. And at that point, I'll be really interested to see what they do, because it's sort of the same situation that Paris had last year. They brought him in. They knew that he was going to supplant. Sorry, I'm blanking on his name.
DJ.
Thank you. DJ. Yeah, sorry, DJ. But they knew that he knew he was going to supplant him. And Trey Benson kind of knows he's going to supplant James Conner.
Yeah.
So how is that going to work out in the end?
Yeah, exactly. So I would say for me, it's Benson, it's Carter, and I think my dark horse is Amari DeMercado.
He did have the majority of the carries when Conner went out last year.
Decent season last year for a guy who, again, another undrafted guy, right away got in and showed that he was not only really good in pass pro, that's what kind of made his name for himself, he showed it on the run game too. For me, I think it's going to come down to Benson, I think, is going to eventually come in and start building up those carries. I still think, though, when it comes to Conner, I think his better complement is Michael Carter, because Michael Carter is more of that change of pace, shifty, where Benson, he can hit those home run hits, but he's still a bruising back that I could see getting more run, especially if Conner goes down. I think that's your RB1. But in the situation, I know it sounds weird, but I just think Carter might fill in that gap a little bit better. And obviously we'll see in training camp. Maybe I'm completely off base. But I really do think, and I don't think we're not going to be waiting that long, because if they don't extend Conner, I mean, they've got to re-sign him after the season. So it could be a thing where we might start seeing that transition happen mid-season to late, especially if maybe they're out of the playoff situation.
And specifically what I'll be looking at during training camp is who lines up on the goal line when it isn't Conner.
Boom. Yep. That's the other one. And I think it's Benson. I really think it's Benson, but that's what I keep going back in my head because I'm like, man, Carter can be that other pass catcher, really can help extend the field. But then, yeah, like you said, like Benson, man, I did a story on him the other day, which you can find all of these camp battles on ArizonaSports.com. Good plug. Benson, I mean, going through, I think half of his touchdowns last year were over 25 yards, with like 4 of them over like 50 yards. So, like, you've got to get him in the game. You have to get him in the game. I'm not saying he's not going to play, but I still think Carter, just entering camp at least, is going to have a little bit of a leg up with the veteran, savviness. Word of the day.
Savviness.
But yeah, I think that's kind of where I'm at. And then Amari's kind of the dark horse. And obviously, if Connor goes down, which has been a thing over the past couple of years, like 4 games, it's Benson's show. And I don't know, he might not give it back.
No, and that'll be interesting to see also because Benson and Carter, as you just touched on there, very different running backs, very different styles. They bring different things to the game. So it'll be interesting to see in this Arizona Cardinals offense that we haven't even had a full season with to truly see what they want to do with Kyler and shape it all out. Which one they lean towards more.
And how much more does Kyler get on the ground? And design plays, too.
That's not a camp battle.
No, it's not, but it's a question we'll
look
at. All right. And that was number, like I said, 4. Last for you. Okay, next one, wide receiver 2.
Wide receiver 2 is like middle of the pack on my camp battles.
Okay.
Because, as we've discussed, I have Michael Wilson leading for wide receiver 2 right now.
Yeah.
Marvin, then him, then Zay. I think that Zay brings the downfield threat, and I think that's where he'll be used primarily. I'm also interested to see, because of his veteran presence, if it's sort of 3rd down and 5 and they run like a very specific play for Zay to pick that up. I could see that happening.
Yeah.
I also, as we've discussed before, need Michael Wilson to be healthy. I need him to stick around. I need to see what he's able to do. I feel like this season that could happen for him, like be sort of my breakout star of the Cardinals, if you will.
Okay.
Like, not have a Trey McBride-esque breakout as he did, but just sort of understanding more what Wilson can do for this offense.
Yeah.
And if it starts to thrive under a new leader in Kyler, if this allows him to break out.
Yeah. So when Zay got signed, we had an emergency podcast. I think I was fully on. He's going to be wide receiver 2. Going through the offseason workouts, seeing Michael Wilson kind of take that next step, hearing what Kyler said about him, he's going to be in the league a long time. He's a guy who can call at 3 a.m. He's going to be there. And I think even Trey was like, hey, I'm the same guy too, man. Like, come on, like Trey McBride.
Yeah.
But that alone, and just the way that Michael Wilson said, like, I made it a point this offseason to be here, to make sure I'm getting the extra work in with Kyler. And he's another guy that I think Gannon has said time and time again, like, yeah, he does a little extra, does a little too much extra sometimes. So I think slot is figured out with Greg Dortch, especially after what Kyler said about him. Wide receiver 1 better be figured out. They used a 4th overall pick on Marvin Harrison Jr.
If it's not, we have a huge problem.
Michael Wilson should be that wide receiver 2. Zay Jones should fill in as that. I say should, but it's going to be a close battle because Zay brings a veteran savvy. Say it again. But Michael Wilson's bringing a lot of confidence, and it's just going to come down. And we're a broken record. It's like you said, injuries. Can he stay healthy? Because again, Zay Jones comes in. It could be a similar situation with Benson. He might not give it back if they really are gelling right away. So that's where I'm at. I have Wilson just ahead of Zay, just because he's got that connection with Kyler. He's got a year under the system. Not taking anything away from Zay, because I think they're going to use him everywhere. I think he's going to kind of be a plug and play guy wherever they need him. So he could be in the slot. He could be wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2. So that's where I'm at. But yeah, I think Wilson has shown a lot just on and obviously can't see a ton of offseason work, but from everything everybody said about him, he is definitely in the lead for wide receiver 2.
I like this battle has evolved for you.
No, yeah, it's been a fun one to watch, and I almost like stubborn, like, oh man, Zay, like they don't go and sign, but no, it's Michael Wilson he's gonna be very much in that mix. All right, let's round it out with defensive line. Where's that for you? Wide receiver 2 is absolutely right behind running back 2, by the way, for me.
Okay. Well, not for me, because running back's at the bottom of the list for me. That's fine. Defensive line, I have, what would that be, 5? Yeah.
6, because this is the last one.
No, I mean on the list.
Oh, yeah,
for
yeah.
me. Yeah,
Yes,
5.
yes.
Yeah, that's where I have it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I've got it 6.
Okay.
Just because I think they've got a lot of talent now.
They do.
There's more talent than they had last year, and it's up to talent. Justin Jones, Bilal Nichols, Darius Robinson. My dark horse is Dante Stills, which I don't even know if I can call him a dark horse because he was really good last year for stepping in and filling in for a lot of injuries. So those are the names I've got. I'm very much interested to see if Darius can jump in that starting rotation between either Justin or Bilal.
I think he can.
Yeah?
I think he can.
Do you think it's right away, or you think into the season?
I think it's right away. I don't think that you draft him as early as you did without thinking that he could jump in right away. Also, the way he talks about football.
Nuts.
Nuts.
It's Jonathan Gannon and Nick Ross.
Exactly. It's like I'm looking in a mirror to them, and he is just saying everything you want him to say, but he's also like enchanting me about football. Like just the way he talks about it, I'm entranced. I'm like, yes, I want to get out there and run through a brick wall too. Yeah. Because he's so motivational and he has such a high football IQ and such an awareness for the game. Just talking about, okay, well, I work here because if we're doing this, this, and this is my role. Or if we're doing this, and this, I know that maybe that's not somewhere that I can succeed, but I know what I need to build upon so clearly. It feels like he has an idea of his skill set and exactly what he can bring to the team, but also his weaknesses, what he needs to improve upon. And I feel like that's rare with a rookie coming in to be like, yeah, I know I'm really good at these things and I'm ready to play right now. But he has an awareness of the fact that I'm not great at these handful of things, but that's what I'm really stressing and that's what I'm really working on. And he said multiple things over the course of the off season, you know, on our very own airwaves, talking about this is what I'm trying to work on. He's very open about his own growth opportunities, and that's why I think he'll jump right in.
Yeah, and he's massive. I think him and Dante Stills are the two biggest guys. Like, nothing against everybody else, but they just look bigger. And especially Stills. Like, he came back ready to go. So that's why I'm like, I don't even know if we should put dark horse title on that because he could very well be in the mix to go right away. Yeah, I mean, like you said, you don't draft him that high to not at least get him in the mix early. Much like pass rusher, they love rotating guys. So the snap counts might not be starter-esque compared to other teams, but I mean, when I was going through the pass rush, I think it was like Dennis Gardeck was like at 46%. B.J. Ojolari, 37%. Victor, I think, was 37%. Like, that's the kind of split I would probably see between those guys. But, yeah, right now I think it's got to be one of the vets, and I do think Darius is going to really, really, really make it tough to not get in that starting lineup right away.
Especially because those vets he's competing against are guys who haven't played for the Cardinals before. They have that veteran presence in the NFL and in football, but not under the exact same scheme that the Cardinals are running. So I think that also gives Darius sort of the upper hand in this situation.
Yeah, yep, I agree there. Well, that was a good rundown of all the battles. So with that, we're going to let you guys get ready for training camp as we do the same because we've got a lot coming your way. So be sure to keep it locked on the Arizona Sports app, arizonasports.com, 98.7. You can follow me at tdrakersports. Lauren, where?
Koval_Lauren.
Follow the Cardinals Corner on Twitter, X, AZ Cards Corner. And as always, just enjoy football, everybody, because it is here and it's not going away anytime soon. We are about to kick it up. And if you want to know more about the battles, go to arizonasports.com. I got them all there. Have defensive line probably posting tomorrow in the morning, but go look, get versed, and be ready to go to State Farm Stadium. We'll talk to you guys next time.